That is just writing at its mastery level, man. And I have to applaud you. The performance on Bible versus Blake is emotional. Like, you got inside it, man.
Wow. Thank you, man.
Congratulations. I'm excited about this new album. I really am. You said something recently on a really lovely kind of short film, which sort of coincides with the release of this record. And the opening statement was really interesting to me. You said, you know, I wasn't even sure I'd ever make another album again. And I think that, you know, most artists contemplate that at various points on your journey for lots of different reasons, personal, creative, you know, there's lots of reasons. Why were you sort of thinking along those lines at one point or another, mate?
The nuts and bolts reasons are that, you know, it seems like maybe we're moving towards a single driven music format in general, you know, and you know, the way you look at it from a boring industry point of view is, well, this song is being consumed on streaming, and you know, Zane Lowe played it, and you know, you go through all these things, and it kind of creates a bottom line, and it feels like albums are kind of pushed over into like a different place in the industry. At least for me, it's kind of become that way. I don't want to speak for everybody, you know. And so I don't want to let songs be on albums and then just kind of be buried in the pile because they're not the featured piece of music, you know. And because you know, a lot of times if I cut a song that somebody else wrote and I put it on an album and it's never a single, sometimes that's almost like just burying it alive, you know, when maybe it could have had a life somewhere else. Who knows, you know, how some of those things could shake out. But you know, the other thing is, you know, I'm about to turn 45, and sometimes it's you know, it's harder for me to just go, well, you know, what is it that I feel like saying at this point in my life? And the truth is, if we're just being honest here talking, I just like great songs. At this point in my life, I'm not trying to prove anything or make sure that people, you know, are receiving this special message that I'm trying to send them through my music. I just like great country songs, like Bible verses that you were just playing. You know, I mean, I heard that song and I never really thought of myself in that way. Like, I think of myself as a spiritual person that and I have faith in God, but I never really thought about it in terms of wow, you know, sometimes I just feel like I'm just never going to get there. I'm never going to measure up to what I need to measure up to, you know. And even though I have that thought, I never really thought about putting that into a song. And then lo and behold, these great songwriters come along and have this idea, write it, and it slapped me in the face just like it did you, you know. And then it becomes something that I do want to say, you know. And so when I think in terms of just making an album and going, I want people to get, you know, this message about this place that I'm at in my life right now. I don't think anybody really cares, to be honest. I think I would rather just make a great album that's full of the best songs I can come up with, even if some of them contradict the next one. I don't care. I'm just crazy about well-written, great songs, you know?
God, that was such a beautiful answer, man. There's so much in there. I'm trying to sort of cherry pick these things that keep coming to mind when you say them. But the one thing that immediately stood out at the beginning of what you said was, when somebody invests in you and you invest in them by deciding to cut a song, it's a union. It's a union. It's an emotional contract. You've written something I really love, and I'm going to try to do it justice, right? And we would love you to do it justice. We're going to present this to you. You're the voice to carry this and make it real. But you're right. It doesn't feel as real sometimes unless it's that tree in the forest situation. But no one's ever, to your credit, put it that way, that maybe this song would be better suited in the hands of somebody else that's going to make it a single or really get behind it rather than it just be track number 7 on an album. I have never considered that, and it's a very meta-modern kind of concern, you know? And it proves to me that you really take collaboration seriously.
You know, for me, I guess I would consider myself a songwriter. I mean, I've written some songs, I've cut songs, I've been in that lane, you know.
Too humble about it, in my opinion, but you're a humble guy, so I respect it.
Oh, thank you. But mostly I just consider myself a country singer. That's all I ever really wanted to be, you know. And I thought it would be so cool to be able to sing country music for a living, and maybe hear myself on the radio one day, you know. That was just what my dream was as a teenager, and if it wasn't for these songwriters, mostly I guess in Nashville for me, if they hadn't had the confidence or took a chance on me, I would still be roofing houses in Oklahoma. You know, I mean, it's because of the writers that I've been able to have the career that I've had, and I think uh, and I feel like maybe it's getting tougher and tougher for songwriters to really hit that grand slam with the way the industry's kind of shifted, and
Yeah.
nobody's fault. It's just kind of become what it is now, you know.
I can think of a few people that maybe had had the keys to the kingdom at a really crucial point that made some pretty shitty decisions.
Oh,
But
that's true.
that's what.
You see how I try to just kind of navigate around.
Beautifully done.
Yeah.
Meditative.
But anyway, you know, I think to your point, if it's not a song that's made a single, or at least a featured piece of music, and you know how that works with Apple. You know, a song can be an Instagram or whatever they call some of those things. You know, but at the end of the day, I try to be mindful of that stuff. And there's been times where I've held on to songs for sometimes for years after I've cut them, and with this reason in mind. And Scott and I always go back to the writers, or at least Scott does on my behalf, and says, hey, if you're cool with it, we would rather not put this song on this album because we don't know that we'll get to it as a single, and we think it deserves to be a single. Happy Anywhere, which is on this album, was a song that I cut probably two and a half, maybe 3 years ago.
Wow.
And because we knew we were coming with a hits package, and we were, you know how those things work. It's like, well, we know we're going to release these two, and then it was like, hey, if you guys are cool and you think you can live with it, we want this to be a single, but it's going to be, we're talking a year and a half down the road. Can you swallow that pill? You know,
that is amazing.
They have to take that journey with me, you know. But
they gotta trust you, yeah. But it's a huge amount of trust in your process too, because you are a man of your word. I know that. I know people who know you, and I know that that's an important part of your makeup. And so when you make that decision with Scott, like, hey, we're going to hold tight on this, but trust us, we'll get to it, you're in. You know, I've been on the receiving end of those phone calls where it's like, hey, congratulations, you track 13 on a 12-song album.
Right.
You know? I've had those calls,
yeah.
Right? And there's no way to spin it, right? It's like, cool, excellent, okay, deluxe version song 1 on the deluxe extension, and it's still great. It's still great. You still feel proud of your work. You're proud to, and also you had the process. But in many respects, what you're saying would be a kind of beautiful call to get, which is like, if we can be patient here, the song will have its day in the sun.
And by the same token, we always say, hey, look, I get it. If this is too much to ask, and Luke Bryan is recording, or Jason Aldean, and you by all means, you know, we try to be as fair as we can, but it's always, and I can see it from the writer's point of view. It's like, man, okay, we got a bird in hand here. You know what I mean? Like, let's just let, I would say 99% of the time they said, no, you cut it. Just go with it when you want to, you know?
Yeah. Beautiful.
And still, you know, and here we are talking about that as I'm releasing an album that you and I both know I'm going to get to 4 singles on it. But I just feel like we're in that transition period still. It's taken a while, you know. The record company, they depend on an album, you know, and that's the other end of the spectrum. And I think for the most part, when the songwriters that I work with, they know if they've written a song that I've cut that is an album cut, or it's something that's extra special, and you know, everybody in the room kind of knows, oh, this is going to be a single. I mean, you know what I mean?
And now we're at a point where anniversaries are rolling around. And I think this is the sweetest spot for artists, when you can have something new to share with people and also something that we already love to celebrate again.
Yeah.
And we're hitting an anniversary. Austin, big moment. These are all big moments in your life, right? Moments that you can kind of pinpoint where things changed. What changed for you with that song? Now we're looking back a couple of decades.
I got to be honest, when I recorded Austin, when I first heard Austin, I didn't even want to record it. I remember thinking, oh my God, like, this is the cheesiest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, what is this guy? This guy's so desperate. Like, get over it. Like, the girl left, but then the more I heard it, I was like,
the folly of youth. If you heard it now on first listen, you'd be like, mine.
I know. Now, knowing now, but thank God, thank God I had Bobby in my life, and I had a lady by the name of Debbie Zabitson, who was A&R Records, or A&R for Giant Records, and they were like, listen, we get what you're saying, but please just live with the song, live with it for a couple of weeks, and every time you're in your truck, listen to it a time or two. And I'm telling you, and it didn't take long, maybe a day or two. I was like, okay, at some point, one of those listens got to me, but I still didn't feel like the song. I didn't see how I could fit in with that song as far as the way I sounded and sang. The demo that I had of it was like a piano based demo, and I was always like considered myself like guitar banging guy, and so Bobby said to me, he said, well, just freaking learn it on the guitar then, and try to make it into something that fits what you do. And then that happened, and the rest, became my beginning in history.
You became pretty big news from that point forward. It's funny. It's like the rest of the world finally caught up to what those around you already knew, which is, and I'm going to give you a compliment here. And I know that I don't know how you take them, but I'm going to dive straight in. You're a charismatron, man. You've got an energy about you, an aura about you, which just exists. And I'm sure you have your low days and things you got to deal with and the challenges of life. But when you're on, you're on. You present your best. And I've always appreciated it about you. But with that comes this attractive thing. It's like a law of attraction. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, now everybody kind of wants to get a little bit closer and a little bit closer, and pretty soon you can't see past people. And I wonder sort of at what point you realize, like, okay, I have to change my thinking here, because otherwise I could get swallowed up by this, like many others have. And you seem to be able to channel it, and you understand it for what it is. But I can't imagine it was always like that, especially when it first arrived.
The thing that shook me and kind of knocked me off my game was I just kind of got overwhelmed by the workload of it all.
When was this?
I had signed on to do The Voice in 2011, and at that point in my career, I was opening for Brad Paisley, and which was a big opportunity for me. But then all of a sudden, this television show landed in the middle of that, and then the TV show blew up. I didn't even really understand the television world. I remember we filmed, half of the season, and it started airing. And by the time I got back to the show to start working on when the show went live, I remember walking in and producers were running up to me. I'm like, oh my God, we have a hit. Can you believe we got a hit? And I was like, we do? Like, what do you mean we have a hit? I mean, my family are watching, and we're all excited, but I didn't really understand that world. I still don't really understand how to read television ratings.
It's also kind of a confusing format too, because it's like we film here, then it goes, then it comes, and it's here, and then I've spoken to a few people who've worked on these shows, and they said the same thing that you're saying, which is when you first start doing these kind of shows, the way they roll them out, it's hard to know when it's on the air or not on the air.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then back then they would say we got I don't even know. I'm just going to say a 3.9. With the key, demographic. I'm going, 3.9 sounds horrible to me. What does that even mean? What are you talking about?
Out of 100?
Yeah, like what is it? And I still don't really understand that, to be perfectly honest.
I don't understand it. I think they made the language up.
The headlines, and they say like, Voice hits all-time high or Voice sinks to new low. Those are the things that I understand. Just
that's what he used to say to my boss. I'd be like, either my line would always be at ratings time. I'd be like, I don't want to know the details. Just either give me a raise or give me my pink slip. It's one or the other.
That's right. But anyway, so obviously the show blew up bigger than anything I've ever experienced. Blew up and immediately took over my life. And but here I
What does
was.
that mean? Blake,
It
sorry, what does that mean when it
it
takes over your life?
it means you could be in country music the biggest artist in our format. You could be the selling 10 million albums per album, but you could probably still walk into Walmart and get in and out of there without a lot of people recognizing you. You know, you're a voice on the radio, and if they happen to watch videos, but all of a sudden here I am, you know, on television 2 nights a week. At the time, the biggest show on television, and it was that's what I mean. Like all of a sudden there was paparazzi following me around, and there was I can go to Walmart, but man, better do a couple of shots of tequila before I walk in there because it's gonna be a nightmare, you know.
You know, that level of attention, yeah, it's great. It allows you to be passionate about what you do, but it's not normal.
Yeah. Well, I would say this to that, which is, you know, I, I can pick and choose the days that I'm in the mood for it or not, you know, and it's up to me. I should never go to a restaurant on a day where I don't I'm not up to someone approaching me. You know, that's on me. And so and I think that's why I've never you know, and I've been with artists when they're like, and I've seen them do it where they're like, you know what, not today. You know, I'm not doing that today. And even though I relate to them for what they're doing, I also I hate it for whoever they're doing it to because you know this person is it's their one chance in their life that they're going to get a chance to say something that they wanted to say to this person, you know. And so I
Who's
always
inspired them? Who's inspired them to this person means something to them. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to sell this or I'm going to put this on social media. If you have the courage to go up and someone's eating a meal and you really say, look, I'm a fan, it's a deep, and you know that person's heart is in their throat.
oh yeah, yeah, and it's hard for them too. And so I always just feel like, hey, look, if I go somewhere, then it must mean that I'm ready to high five some people. I don't know if I answered whatever question you may have asked. I can't even remember
I
what we
don't
were
even know
talking
if
about.
I'm not even sure if I asked a question, to be honest with you. I don't think I've asked one question in this whole conversation. Which brings us to a song called Happy Anywhere, and this moment that, you know, we love a duet that's rooted in authenticity. And we like songs where it's a match made in social media heaven, and let's all just share our followers. Great, it's a banger. But we love a song where it's real, where the chemistry is real. You know, it's clearly real between you and Gwen. But when it comes to recording the music, you know, how is that experience when it comes down to like really sharing a moment in the creative space, not just a moment in the home life?
Gwen and I wrote a song together about 5 years ago, I think, maybe six, uh, called "Go Ahead and Break My Heart," and it was on "If I'm Honest" album, and and I remember at that time, you know, we were just starting to see each other, and we were both going through horrible breakups, divorces, and horrible in that it was just sad, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there was times where Gwen and I, it would be like, you know, are we rebounding here? Is that what we're doing together? Because this makes no sense, right? And so that we would always have these conversations of like, oh yeah, we're just getting over, you know, our crap with each other, you know. And so that's kind of where that song was born out of. And it was interesting because all of a sudden there was this girl that I was just starting to see and spend time with, and that I was obviously crazy about. But all of a sudden, as we wrote this song, and we wrote it on like voice notes or whatever, sending them back and forth with each other, and it was like only then did it dawn on me. Not that it dawned on me, but it really like was a shocker to me that oh my God, I'm writing a song with Gwen Stefani. Like all that, not only then did it kind of hit me like, she is an incredible songwriter. These things she's coming up, and then her voice on the voice notes, the way she sounded, just singing it like a little scratch vocal to show me what she was thinking, is like that voice. Like you talk to her and she sounds like Gwen, but when she sings, all of a sudden it's the girl. It's Don't Speak. It's
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It's that icon. It's that icon. It's icon status.
Icon, you know. So I still, to answer your question, I think I'm still not really over that hump. I remember when we were recording the vocals for Happy Anywhere, because we actually recorded that song before we recorded Nobody But You, which came out before Happy Anywhere, going back to the story I was talking about earlier. I remember being in the studio and like, you know, texting the writers, like, you know, taking videos like, oh my God, you are going to when you, this is Gwen Stefani is singing your song right now. You know what I mean? Like, and they were freaking out, you know? And so I still have those moments when we get into work mode, and that, you know, I know that it should be super like emotional and personal and this, but I'm really still, because we haven't done that many, we've done 4 songs together, and I'm still more in kind of blown away, fan shocked mode when I actually work with her, you know. And there's been times where she comes out on stage, we'll have it planned that she's at one of my concerts, and we always try to keep it on the down low, and then we'll start Nobody But You, and or Go Ahead and Break My Heart, and then I'll be singing it, and here I am dying from the time I stand on stage, walk out on stage till that moment hits, because I know on that set list, people are going to in their seats when Gwen Stefani walks out here. It's like I'm so like a kid on Christmas morning, and so that's what it's like for me working with her. It's just exciting. It really is.